Okay, picture this. You've spent 30 brutal years clawing your way to the absolute top. You've survived the chaotic death of a king. Every single day is a calculated risk. Every shadow in the palace could be hiding an assassin. You've outlasted jealous rivals who literally tried to poison your food. You've shattered every single ancient rule that said a woman could never, ever rule. And now, finally, you're sitting on the most powerful throne on earth. But what do you do when the one person trying to take it all away is your own flesh and blood? If you're most people, you step aside, right? I mean, it's your kid. But if you're her, no way. Her name was Wu Zetian, and her next move was arguably the most ruthless act in the entire history of the Chinese Empire. Today we're digging into her story, and I promise you the sheer depths of her ambition will genuinely shock you. So let's set the scene. We're dropping into 7th century China, the legendary Tang Dynasty. We're talking about one of the most powerful, sprawling empires the world had ever seen, with over 50 million people. It had vast wealth, massive trade routes, and a very strict social order built on one unbreakable rule: women do not rule, period. Wu Zetian broke that rule, but the terrifying price she paid, and the price others paid for her ambition, is the part history books usually gloss over. We're definitely not glossing over it today. Like all the best historical epics, her story starts with her being completely underestimated. At just 14 years old, she enters the imperial court as a low-ranking concubine to Emperor Taizong. Out of hundreds of girls, her only job is to look pretty and stay quiet. Well, she does neither. Usually when an emperor died, his concubines were expected to shave their heads, become Buddhist nuns, and just fade away. Invisible. But Wu Zetian absolutely refused to be forgotten. She actually charms the new emperor, Gaozong, so thoroughly that he brings her back to the palace. By 655 AD, she climbed from a discarded concubine to the emperor's official wife. The court was completely scandalized. And yeah, the ministers completely lost their minds. They're writing these furious letters, practically begging the emperor to keep her away from the throne. So what's her countermove? Cold, methodical destruction. It was a simple 3-step process. First, she demotes her rivals. Then, she exiles them. Finally, she destroys them. One by one, anyone who spoke against her just vanished from the halls of power. Now, Emperor Gaozong was a brilliant guy, but he was incredibly sickly, so he essentially let Wu handle state affairs from behind the curtain. And honestly, she was phenomenal at it. She held all the real power. She reformed the civil service, beefed up the military, aggressively expanded the borders. But officially, on paper, she wasn't actually the one in charge. And for Wu Zetian, that glaring gap between having the power and holding the official title was something she simply could not tolerate. Everything finally snaps in 683 AD. Emperor Gaozong dies, and the throne naturally passes to their son, Emperor Zhongzong. This is Wu's own son. And what happens next is the exact moment that forever cements her dark, terrifying legacy. Because within just a few weeks of taking the throne, her son makes a massive, unforgivable mistake. He tries to hand power over to his wife's family, freezing Wu completely out of the inner circle. She spent decades building this empire, and her own kid is locking the door. So she does what no mother in recorded history had ever done. But before I tell you what that is, we need to pause. Because to understand how far she's willing to go, I have to give you some deeply disturbing context. Years earlier, to secure her spot as empress, historians believe Wu Zetian made an impossible, chilling choice. She personally smothered her own infant daughter. She then framed a rival concubine for the murder and used that completely fabricated evidence to have the rival executed. Her own child. Gone. Just let that sink in for a second. This wasn't some tragic accident. It was a cold, calculated sacrifice. This was a woman who weighed the absolute cost of power and paid it without even blinking. So let's snap back to the betrayal. When her son Zhongzong tries to cut her out, do you think she hesitates? Not for a second. It took her exactly 6 weeks. 6 weeks to completely depose her own son, strip his imperial title, and exile him to a distant, unforgiving province. To manage the fallout, she swaps an exiled threat for a compliant puppet, her younger son, Rizong. She sits him on the throne, pulling all the strings like a master puppeteer. But even that wasn't enough to guarantee her safety, because her older, deposed son is still out there, acting as a massive magnet for anyone in the empire who wants Wu dead. Which brings up a literal ghost from her past, Crown Prince Li Hong. This was her very first son, the one historians say she actually loved deeply. But back in 675 AD, he died mysteriously at the young age of 23. And the terrifying detail? It happened right after he openly defied his mother in the imperial court. The official cause of death was listed as a sudden illness. But come on, the timing is incredibly suspicious. It leaves us with this haunting 1,300-year-old question hanging in the air. Did she order it? Did she order the death of her favorite son just to protect her grip on the empire? We might never know for sure, but her final move, when she finally stops pretending she needs a son on the throne at all, well, that's the part that will leave you speechless. Actually, really quick, before we hit this final, brutal climax, if you were hooked on this story, make sure to hit subscribe. We dive into these dark, untold histories every single week, the royal scandals and court conspiracies that textbooks always skip. And there's actually an even bloodier chapter about Wu wiping out entire noble bloodlines. So drop a comment below that says more Wu if you want me to cover that next. All right, back to the madness. It's 690 AD. The tension in the palace is at an absolute boiling point. Wu Zetian decides she is done pretending. She doesn't need a man, she doesn't need a husband, and she definitely doesn't need a puppet son. She does what no woman had dared to do in 3,000 years of Chinese history. Look at the sheer, unapologetic audacity here. She removes her son entirely. At 65 years old, she takes the ultimate title for herself. She is no longer empress, she is emperor. And she completely tears down the centuries-old Tang Dynasty to found an entirely new one, the Zhou Dynasty, her dynasty. And how does she maintain that power for the next 15 years? Pure, unadulterated terror. She builds a massive network of secret police monitoring every single whisper in the court. Informants are everywhere. If you're even suspected of disloyalty, you disappear in the middle of the night. It was an atmosphere of absolute fear and total surveillance. But here is her most brilliant and terrifying masterstroke. She creates a system where everyday ordinary citizens could report noblemen directly to the throne. Think about what that actually means. She was completely bypassing the aristocracy, dismantling the exact power structure that had kept women like her oppressed for centuries, using their own fear against them. Yes, she ruled through a dark, brutal network of spies and informants, but it forged an unbreakable reign that completely reshaped an empire forever. She didn't just break the ancient glass ceiling, she completely annihilated it, along with anyone standing underneath it. So, I'll leave you with this. Does her unapologetic ruthlessness make her a monster, or the most brilliant political mastermind of her era? Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time for more incredible history.